Now, there's something to be said about gear for backpacking that is multifunctional, that can simply do many different tasks or solve different problems that we experience out on the trail without having to carry a bunch of individual items to accomplish solving those problems. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. This piece of gear right here that solves at least 7 different backpacking problems that we experience out on the trail that ultimately help us be more comfortable. And that is a closed cell foam pad. In this case, this is an 1/8 inch closed cell foam pad, and what I'm sitting on, an accordion style closed cell foam pad that you're probably more familiar with. Now, at first glance, a closed cell foam pad like this may not seem like it adds much value to you as a backpacker. In fact, from a sleeping standpoint, they're not very comfortable. You don't have much for thickness and a lot of padding, and as much as a company like Nemo tries to integrate this amazing pattern of foam to make it comfortable, it just doesn't hold up to the comfort that you get from an air pad. The first one that we will talk about is while I'm out there on the trail and I want to stop and take a break, and maybe I've got a chair with me or I don't have a chair, what this is going to provide is a barrier of insulation should I want to sit down on the ground while I'm taking a break. And we're not always going to be out hiking when it is this beautiful, amazing, immaculate weather. We might have just had a rainstorm. We might have just had a cold snap, and the ground is a lot colder than you would want it to be. And what I can do is find myself a nice rock, set this down, and now I've got a insulated, dry place to sit while I'm eating my snacks, while I'm taking a break, and just drop in my pack for a minute so I can enjoy not getting my butt wet and losing a bunch of body heat to this cold rock that I'm sitting on. And again, it's a simple thing, but it adds a lot of value and helps you have a more enjoyable experience for something that really doesn't weigh all that much. I want to pause here real quick and just talk about one of my favorite multifunction items that I use for every single one of my trips, and that is onX Backcountry. They are sponsoring this video today and have been a huge support of my channel for all of 2025, and I'm super grateful for that support. It makes it possible for me to do the things that I do here on the channel. But from a multifunction standpoint, what I love about onX is the fact that it's not just an app for hikers. It is multi-sport in the sense that if you're a climber, you've got information and planning tools and things you can use in that regard. Also for mountain biking and for snow sports. And as we're moving into the winter season and snow is going to start falling, we're going to be hiking in areas where there is potential for avalanche danger, and having to check the forecast for that and what the aspect is of the slopes around us when we're moving through the mountains. All of that is important information that becomes part of your trip planning and how you spend your time and make decisions out there in the backcountry. And onX provides the ability for you to use those different layers, those different tools, and that forecast information so that you can make better decisions in the backcountry. Simply, it's amazing. So if you've not tried onX yet, you got to try it. There is a link down in the description for you to save some money. They offer all sorts of different promotions. There's probably some cool promotion going on right now. In the past, it's been available for $1 or $3 or 20% off. Huge thank you to onX for sponsoring this video, supporting the channel. Again, give it a try. Link down in the description. Let's get back to the discussion about closed cell foam pads. Now, in the world of ultralight backpacking, a frameless backpack is the choice of a backpack for a lot of people because it saves a bunch of weight and they are smaller in their size in a lot of ways. And when you are trying to be as lightweight as possible, a big 55, 65 liter size pack is just not realistic. And because you're not carrying as much weight, you don't necessarily need the support of a full-on frame in your backpack. But what is often going to be the case with a frameless pack is that they're just super flimsy and they don't have any of that structure that the frame provides. So in some cases, you do want to have a little bit of structure against your back, or just some protection against the thin fabric in making it so you don't have your gear pushing into your back and making it a little more uncomfortable than it needs to be while you're walking down the trail. Now, this is a pack from Gossamer Gear. This kind of a fast pack style design. And it does have a dedicated, like integrated closed cell foam pad against the back panel here. But that's not necessarily going to be the case for every single frameless pack out there. It may just be a piece of fabric. And in fact, if I pull this out, which this is fitting for being multifunctional, because on this pack, this is removable. This can be a sit pad. It can be a place for me to sit down, get off of a cold rock, which ironically, as I'm sitting here right now on this limestone rock here, my butt is getting a little bit colder. But the point that I'm making is using your closed cell foam pad, which this is one that I have had for many, many years at this point. I just happened to wrap it in Tyvek, which has helped it last for quite a bit longer as well. It's simply for just the added durability. But what I would do is open up my backpack and I would stick it down on the inside of the pack against the back panel. And what that provides is a little bit of a frame structure, but it's not going to be a rigid frame structure. But down inside of the pack here, now I've got this soft piece of foam that's against my back that makes it possible for me to be more comfortable while I'm hiking down the trail and not have to be worrying about stuff protruding and pushing into my back because I just have this thin piece of fabric right here. Then when I'm out and doing my thing at camp, I've got all of the benefits of that closed cell foam pad for the other things that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But really, really nice way to take a frameless backpack and add some more comfort to it while you're walking down the trail. And once I am done hiking for the day and I've got my camp all set up, there are several other functions that a closed cell foam pad provides that are really beneficial. Now, similarly to when I take my pack off and I'm taking a break for the day and I just want a comfortable place to sit that gives me that protection or barrier from cold, wet ground, I do that around camp because I may not be carrying a chair. And so if I want to sit on the ground, this adds some insulation value from whatever I happen to be sitting on. But even if I have a chair, there is a function and value in having a little pad like this, because in those early season or late season trips, the mornings are cold, the evenings are cold, and I don't want to be carrying a bunch of extra like clothing layers. I can bring this because this is arguably lighter weight than those clothing layers would be. Set it down on my chair, sit in this, and then I've got that insulation and barrier from cold air going underneath my butt as I am sitting around camp. But when I do get set up for my camping and for my sleeping at night, there is the obvious benefit of adding additional insulation value to my sleeping pad and layering things to provide that protection from the cold ground, because I'm very likely going to be out early season, late season on frozen ground, snow potentially, and just ground that has gotten really cold overnight. And I may not be somebody that wants to spend a lot of time in cold settings, and so I'm not willing to spend upwards of $250 or more for a really high hour value insulated pad that may only get used a few times a year. So what I can do is take my 3-season sleeping pad that's in that R4 or R5 R value, like this pad here, and then put a closed cell foam pad underneath it, like this one that I have from Outdoor Vitals here. This one's cool because this actually is cut in a 25-inch width and 72 inches long. So it's the same size as my sleeping pad here, which this is the Aero Cloud from Kilo Skier. This has an R value of 5 and is really, in my mind, a 3-season pad and benefits by not being directly on top of snow. But once I've got my closed cell foam pad underneath it, then I've got that insulation barrier that is protecting the air essentially inside of the pad here from that really cold ground and making it so my body is able to essentially maintain keeping the air in the pad warm, and in turn I then sleep a lot warmer. Same thing with a accordion style pad. This is arguably going to be more insulation value, and with the like mylar or the silver finish here on this one side, then it provides even more in that case. That is probably one of the most beneficial uses of the closed cell foam pad. Now, additionally, you might be sleeping on ground that is really pokey or might have some sharp things that could damage your sleeping pad. But this pad underneath, putting this down, is going to be an additional barrier of things that are sharp, potentially poking through and puncturing your sleeping pad. So insulation value, but another problem it solves is that extra layer of protection against your sleeping pad to help make sure that it doesn't get a hole or something sharp poking through it and making so it deflates and then you have not a good night of sleep. Now lastly, one of my favorite functions of a closed cell foam pad is when I'm packing up in the morning, I have a dry, clean place to put all of my gear on and get packed and organized before I hit the trail. So I've got my tent going down and I'm not yet putting everything in my pack. I just have a simple, clean, dry place for me to set all of my gear that is out of the mud, that's out of the water, that's out of the sand, or pokey things, whatever it is. This is just a nice space for me to put my stuff as I'm then loading everything into my backpack and getting packed for the morning. So there you go, closed cell foam pad. One of the most helpful pieces of gear we use as backpackers. Thanks for watching today, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. Hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.